everybody. Welcome back to ATSV, the Canadian version in September 2021. We're going to get started with our next panel on our seminar series here. We do have an esteemed panel from various parts of Latin America, and the title of the session is Sustainability from the Designer's Perspective. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator as well as our panelists. One of our partners here over at ATS is Albania Rosario, founder and CEO of the Fashion Designers of Latin America. Next, we have Jose Forteza. He is the senior editor at Vogue and GQ Mexico and Latin America, who has also been with us before. Welcome back. Next, we have Karla Urbano, creative director, Dante Luxury Footwear Mexico, and Yas Gonzalez, fashion designer and creative director of House of Yas in Cuba. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to remind everybody that we do have a chat function here, all of our viewers on Facebook, as well as here on Zoom. If you could please include your messages and questions in the chat function, and we'll address those at the very end of the panel. And without further ado, I will be disappearing here and giving the floor over to Albania Rosario. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. It's a great pleasure to see you again virtually. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to ATS Canada. This is the 5th edition, virtual edition. Looking forward to our physical event next year, God willing. Before we get into our topic and introducing our speakers, I would like to first share a little screen over here so we can go over a little bit what FDLA is and who we are and what we do. So without further ado, let's take it from here. So briefly, I'm just going to go over on what FDLA is, Fashion Designers of Latin America, which stands for Federación de Diseñadores de Latinoamérica. What is FDLA? FDLA has become the signature multicultural fashion event of New York City. FDLA founded its development on providing exposure for established, emerging, and upcoming clothing designers from Latin America and around the world in an effort to extend a meaningful fashion trade. Accomplishing this, it has been an undertaking in nurturing opportunities for the publicity of international talents whose creative abilities are overflowing, but financial resources are not. FDLA prides itself on continuing its work throughout the years to build bridges, engaging communities, inclusion by leading events, social activities, and diversity initiatives. Our FDLA shows, we just actually had our first physical show after the pandemic, and with a brief on the shows, it's with a top-notch guest list and international media coverage. FDLA reaches a multitude of consumers and continues to grow each year. Our past season show, which I just mentioned, has a major success providing fashion community that FDLA is now considered a player in the New York City world of fashion and around the world. Our FDLA shows continue with this, with a number of designers bringing new thoughts and ideas from around the world. FDLA has now established itself as a crucial stop on the fashion circuit around the world, bringing upcoming Latino designers to be discovered in New York City, the fashion capital of the world, and other international platforms, such as South Korea, Switzerland, Dubai, and other important fashion weeks. The FDLA opportunity gathers New York's fashion elites and industry professionals in a magnificent fashion showcase that provides ample opportunity to network with like-minded consumers with accessibility to fashion, beauty, and creative designs. FDLA allows these instruments to further elevate your brand in excellence. Our vision is FDLA, as we recognize the outstanding contributions made to Latin America by our fashion designers. Our vision is to empower multicultural aspiring fashion designers with creative ideas to succeed and help them bring creative projects to life. Some of our FDLA members, we are proud to say that FDLA now works with over 200 fashion designers and brands across Latin America, providing them a fashion and marketing platform and sourcing of services to grow their business, open windows of opportunities, and continue to build their careers. This is a little bit more about our FDLA platform. I like to describe it as diversity, multicultural opportunity, and that is what makes FDLA unique and different. So here I have a short clip of our past show, which we had our 3 speakers of today were part of this shows in New York City this past week. So I'm just going to share this with you guys real quick. All right. And without further ado, I just want to share here with us our social media and website, Fashion Designers of Latin America. You can find us on social media. You can also find us at FDLA Official. And our website is fdla.co. We are located in Manhattan and 225th West 30th Street, New York City. You can find us there on the 6th floor. And we're there to answer any questions that you might have. And now is the time moving forward with our seminar section of today. I am proud and honored to be sharing this screen in the next 45 minutes with 3 of our members and also our new named honorary president of FDLA, Jose Forteza, of Vogue Mexico and Latin America. And then we also have Karla Urbano, creative director at Dante Luxury Footwear, and Yas Gonzalez, fashion designer and creative director at House of Jazz. So without further ado, I'm going to have each and one of them introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into the questions and into the topic of sustainability from the designer's perspective. So I'd like to pass it to Karla.
Hi, nice to see you again. Thank you for the invitation. And okay, my name is Karla Urbano. I have a degree in fashion and footwear design. I studied that in Mexico. Right now, I'm the creative director of Dante Luxury Footwear in Mexico. Dante is a new brand, kind of new brand. We have already around 5 years in the market. And let's see, we are really happy to be here with you. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karla. And we're going to continue with Yas Gonzalez.
Hello, hi, thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure being here with all of you today. Thank you for joining everyone that's out there watching the seminar. My name is Yas Gonzalez. I'm a fashion designer. I am Cuban, but I do live in Miami. I wish I lived in Cuba, but at this moment we can't. I've been in the business for 5 to 10 years, because legally it's been 5. What I do mostly is women's wear, and I do focus on the real woman and keeping in mind always the sustainable part of the fashion industry. So it's a great opportunity to be here sharing my stories and hearing other people's stories, and also leaving a little bit out there for new generations of fashion designers to come.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So now we're going to have Jose Forteza.
Hi, all. I'm the old man in the sea of fashion. I mean, many of you fortunately know me. To me, it's an honor being here with these 3 ladies, Karla, Albania, Yas, another Cuban. We are majority today. I mean, it's an important day. I also live between Miami and Mexico. I'm the senior editor for Condé Nast Mexico and Latin America. I'm now the honorary president of FDLA. Thank you. I mean, a real big honor. And why am I here? Because I've been like over 22 years in the fashion industry, in the side of communication, but of course, in a close relationship with the designers. And in the last, let's say, 5 years, I've been very, very connected with the whole world and philosophy of the green world and the sustainability. As a matter of fact, I'm connected with MOLA and the Green Carpet Awards, which I have been jury and part of the whole staff, even the host of the Green Carpet, which was a great experience to me. So I'm ready and happy to share with you everything you want to hear from me. Hopefully it's gonna be useful for all of us.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jose. And without further ado, I'm going to go right into the Q&A, the questions on our topic today, which is sustainability from the designer's perspective and the media perspective, as we have Mr. Jose Forteza with us. And my first question is actually for you, Jose. You ready?
Always ready.
Okay. Can you talk about the importance of climbing with honesty and transparency?
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's one thing I would like to approach first, and there is the difference between growth and what they would say like climbing or something like that in the business. In general, when we talk about growth, we are talking about like a sustainable increase in revenues for any business. When you're a young startup or when you are a young designer or an emerging brand, I would say that the first thing, the important thing is to create a strong brand identity. Of course, it is connected with establishing a market, and then it's the moment of thinking about growth and hyper growth, which is another word to, in a way, describe what this climbing thing is. Generally seen as the definition of a successful company, when we talk about growth, we're thinking of increasing revenue as a result of how things are going, how sales are moving, and how benefits are in our books. The key difference with scaling and growth is that when we talk about scaling is achieving that by increasing the revenue without incurring insignificant cost. That's the first thing that I wanted to establish with you, the difference between growth and scale. That means that if you want to add customers and revenue exponentially, you will have to cut overhead and approach a bunch of initiatives to achieve that goal. So the first thing that I want to make clear from my viewpoint is that it's not necessary at all to overproduce, to produce consciously and in sync with the demand. That's the first thing that I would say, and in a way is answering your question that is about the possibility of scalability without overproducing, which is the main thing. How can we do it? I would say that every designer, every brand manager, every entrepreneur in general terms, got to be clear of what the niche is, who they're working for. They have to be very clear of where the boundaries between the actual production in relationship with the demand are. And overproducing will never be in direct relation with scaling or with having a big success. On the contrary, you will be spending and you won't have a return on that production. So I think that the key is producing consciously, and when I mean consciously, I mean financially consciously. Also producing consciously in terms of the green philosophy of applying, all the what we expect from the just practices and the transparency, having all these elements very clear for the consumer and for yourselves, and that should be the ABC, as we say in Spanish, I would say, of a really green conscious brand, and of succeeding in that sense in the world of fashion for the emerging brands.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I do agree with you that it's not necessary to overproduce. I think it's really important for everyone to know that. And I hope everybody's taking notes, because this information is definitely valuable for all of those that are there watching this seminar. My next question is for Carla. Carla, from your experience, What do you believe sustainable design is?
Okay, because for me, it's a process. You have to start a design thinking and give the consumer and give the environment something good. I mean, you have to start designing since you are sketching, imagining all the materials that you can use, all the stage that will be the clothes. The sustainable design for me is an intelligent process. You have to take a good decision before to make the first prototype. In my opinion, you have to do that before start production or something like that. Yeah, for me, it's a process, an intelligent process to help to improve the impact, the environment impact in the world. So first of all, choosing the good materials for that kind of designs.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carla. My next question is for Yas, and it's pretty much the same question. You're welcome. So Yas, can you explain to us what is sustainable fashion means from the designer perspective and from your perspective? I think your phone is muted.
Sorry. I have a baby in the house, so I have to mute it just in case.
No problem.
From my perspective, it means a different way of assuming the fashion industry. I focus on the reduction of the environmental charge and the increase of social responsibility. To me, sustainability fashion means mostly a social responsibility, because what are we leaving out there for our kids? How are we leaving the world? What are we doing to make the world a better place? And how us as designers, even if some of the designers out there don't think that by them just doing one little thing, it's going to make a change, they are not correct. By doing little things, each one of us, we will make a change. Also, it gives me the opportunity to think about new ways of doing work, and at the same time, doing something good for the environment, doing something good for my kids, doing something good for other generations to come, as I stated previously. So basically, that's what it means to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that answer. And now, Jose, what does it mean to be an advocate in fashion and sustainability, and how difficult is it to achieve?
Well, I mean, being an advocate of sustainability starts with what we have just see here, with those two young ladies talking about how they understand sustainability from their viewpoints. And every time that anybody buys or wears one of their pieces, I mean, a pair of shoes or a beautiful dress that are produced with a sustainable conscious philosophy and practice, they are advocates in that very moment. Of course, in the sense of the press and the communication, we have to be very careful of the space we give to everyone in the industry. We have to be very careful on the space we are gonna give or we are gonna devote to the fast fashion brands. Sometimes we have to make a decision. I mean, unfortunately, many fast fashion brands have the money to overcome the editorial spaces. And this is also a business. I'm not saying that we are not going to give ad pages to a fast fashion brand, but I'm saying that we have to cut what we give to them, and we have to increase what we give to brands that are fighting to carry on a sustainable philosophy in fashion. We have to do that. It's our duty with ourselves and with the future. I think that in that sense, we are also being advocates for sustainability. But we don't have to think of, then we have to talk about, of course, the celebrities and the influencers. It's beautiful. I embrace them all. I embrace influencers. I'm an advocate for the good work they could do as far as they do it. It doesn't make sense to me, a lady or a guy that is gonna have 175 posts a day in social network with 195 different outfits in those posts. They're damaging the image they have to give to the rest of the people that are following them. And what they should do is to make people understand that we have to reuse, that we have to be creative when we dress, that we have to change accessories or things to be ourselves and to express ourselves without the stupid notion that we have to wear a different outfit every time. We have also to use our power as communicators, press, influencers, or whatever it is, whatever life puts us on, to make people understand that we have to trace what we are wearing. Traceability in a piece of clothing is important. We have to understand how many people are sweating to produce that piece of cloth. And we have to consider if the sweat is being respected and well paid for. We have to consider if the materials that we use are killing half our environment, or if they are reusable, and they are, I mean, there are many, many, many different little words that would explain that, and we don't have the time, and it is not the platform. But we have to, and we have the means to learn and understand how to be sustainable. From the very moment we dress in front of the mirror and go out in the streets, we can be advocates for sustainability. And we can, in this case, again, going back to my first, escalate conceptually in the role we have as social beings to be advocates in a bigger or smaller scale of what sustainability gotta be. So those are the main elements we have to consider. Every one of us, you that are listening to me now, every one of us in the panel and in the industry can be or have the potential to be an advocate for sustainability.
Excellent. I couldn't agree more with you. And I think if we all do our part, we can all become advocates, like you just said. And I believe that reusing is a trend. It's a new trend. It was creating conscience and helping this topic. So I'm going to ask now Carla another question. How a design can be used to reduce the social environmental impact of a product's life cycle?
I think that environment impact should be considered at every stage of the process of design, in my opinion. You have to think first how a shoe, a clothes will be start, and also you have to think how will be end that product. First of all, you have to think how the process will be, how the people will sell that product, that design. I don't know, for me it's better to make a little bit slow fashion, to choose a better material. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive or something like that, but in my opinion it's much better because you can use that product for a long time. And slow fashion can be supported a lot if the designers start thinking first in the environment. Then, I mean, you can combine the aesthetic, a nice design, and also you can use really good materials. You can provide the customers a product that they can use for a long time. So for me, you can consider that in every stage of the product, since, I mean, design, sales, transporting, and at the end of the products. A lot of products are ending in Africa, and it's difficult for the environment to have that amount of products, fashion products. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Carla, for that answer. I want to remind everyone to, if they have any questions, to please put them in the Q&A section so that we can address those at the end. And my next question is for Yas. Yas, Hi, Yas. You there? Okay. How are eco-friendly fashion designers making a change?
Well, thank you for that question. It's very important how many actual known designers, as well as up and coming designers, are making a change by just adding a little bit of sustainability conscious to their designs and the way that they do their things. So, for example, Stella McCartney, she it's an advocate of sustainability when she does her designs. She's one of the first ones to bring it out and to promote it, if you will. Designers are also from the beginning that you from the beginning of a design, the moment that you sit to draw, the moment that you sit to do an illustration, you have to have in conscious what you're designing for, who you're designing for, and how many times you can use that piece. You know, promote, use the influencers, promote a way of having, you know, one piece of a garment be used in several ways by adding or removing accessories. Maybe if you have a headscarf, try not to sell it as a headscarf. There are many designers out there, including myself, that I do have a lot of headscarves and I resell them in many ways. I use them as cover-ups. I use them as, you know, as head bows. I use them in many ways, and I promote the way of having them, you know, being useful in many other ways other than just having a scarf. So things like that. And then the other thing is not wasting fabrics. When you're, for example, in my way, I have my part of the business as Atelier, which I custom make clothing for one-on-one clients. And I always tell them, you know, if I make a garment for an evening gown or something like that, and you would like something else, maybe a later time for a cocktail, you know, come back, bring me the dress. I can remake it for you. You know, we don't have to waste more fabric. We don't have to use, you know, more materials. We'll remake that one dress and you can take advantage of that. So you're not spending extra money, you're taking care of the environment, and you're making the life of a piece a little longer. I mean, polyester is one of the most sustainable fabrics out there, and you could have a polyester dress for 200 years. You can pass it on to different generations and you know, have it beautiful if you take good care of it. And that's what it's all about. Fast fashion has come into the industry to just take away all that sustainability conscious, and I think it's very unfair for newer generations and for us living on Earth at this moment. So I think that designers are really taking into consideration that whole thing of not unnecessarily producing a large amount of pieces and having an inventory there just to have, especially newer generations of designers, I believe.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I have a very long question here for Mr. Forteza. How easy it is to make the decision to produce sustainable fashion in an industry that has been immersed in fast fashion for years, where almost everything is basically disposable and without quality?
Well, I think that the question is long, but the answer is not complicated at all. It's totally obvious. In terms of what we must do in the first place is work. The answer is work on the consumer. The consumer is the one who have the power because it's the one who's going to buy. If we as communicators make people understand the meaning of buying a beautiful made-to-measure piece of jazz that is going to have a long life because of its quality, that it is also unique and important creatively, and that is also important for the person that wears it to show their personality. We are going to be making a first step towards the change, towards the important change. And we're going to make a dramatic big step in the way people understand that it is not the times you change your garment or your outfit, but the good you make every time you reuse it, but the good to the future you make every time you upcycle this piece of clothing or this garment or this shirt or this skirt. So that is the way we can make people change their mind. towards fashion, towards the concept of fashion. Now we are living a very interesting moment. And I can compare because I've been like, I don't know, over 20 years in this. Right now, the experience, and it's not a slogan, is the truth. For the younger generations, and interestingly, for older generations that are starting to understand, what is more important is the experience. And when you wear a piece of cloth, when you wear a garment, when you wear a dress or a shirt or a suit, you are incorporating that to the experience of the moment you're living. And the moment can be walking the streets of New York, trying to understand why the smell has changed, to the possibility of walking the red carpet at the Met Gala. Every single moment of your life is an experience, and what you're wearing, and what you're saying through the way you're dressed, where you're wearing your clothes, is part of the experience. For that, you don't need to change every time. For that, you need, on the contrary, you need to treasure those moments together with the way you treasure those pieces of clothing, and you wear them once and again. So that's one of the most important steps in terms of communicating and in terms of changing the approach of the consumer to fashion. The way I see it in the side of the producers, in the production line, is being conscious on the materials they are using, is being conscious in the way they are exploiting the raw materials. In the side of the designers, they all are people that are special because they are able to translate into forms and volumes and colors and beautiful things what the rest of society think, needs, and demand, because they are also part of them with the privilege of having the tools to show that in their creations. So they have to be also conscious of the message they're sending back to the people that finally are inspiring them when they produce and when they create. So everyone has a role in this. Everyone has a role in changing the industry that, as you said, has been for years in the philosophy of the fast fashion, or exploiting the resources indiscriminately, and to a more conscious and aesthetically viable and I would say plausible way of being part of this world we are in.
Understood. We all have a role to play, and I hope everyone is following this information. Now, Carla, so we know that you are the creative director at Dante Luxury Footwear in Mexico. You guys just presented with us here last week at New York Fashion Week, and we saw all the work, all the amazing work that you have been producing. So I have a personal question for you. How is the production? How is the production process of a sustainable shoe?
Okay, first of all, I don't know if in other countries, but in Mexico, it's not so easy to find organic materials. So first you have to try to find the correct materials to start, first of all, the design, and then start the production. I mean, everything starts as the same process of design. You have to take the ideas, you have to analyze the market that you want to sell your shoes. So after that, after you analyze the style life, market, everything, after that, you start to design. And then for me in Mexico, it's difficult because we don't have everywhere available materials, sustainable materials. So after that, I have to try to find everywhere and choose the materials, start to mix the combinations and the SKUs and everything for decide how can I want to see a shoe. After that, we always make a pullover that is like my first test. And after that, we use like old leather. And after that, we decide when I have to correct the lines of the shoe. I have to decide that it's perfect. After that, for not using more materials, after that, we make the first prototype. And then I try the shoe, I see the color, if I like it and everything. After that, we start a confirmation sample. And this sample is like the last one. Is the sample that I have to send to production, and I have to be 100% sure that it's perfect with correct materials, correct lines, the last of the shoe, the pieces. After that, that confirmation sample is like the Bible for production. They start everything with that sample. So it's a little bit complicated to make it sustainable because we have to use materials based water. We have to think in the process of I don't know, the process of the water, the cement that we use, everything. It's almost the same process to make a normal shoe, but the only thing that we have to change is the sustainable materials. Also the process. We have to change the process. We have to think in transporting the shoe. We have to think the box of the shoe that we want to sell. But first of all, I think that we have to communicate to our consumers, our customers, to how is a sustainable shoe? Because a lot of when you are talking about sustainable fashion, a lot of people start thinking in ugly fashion. So what happens if you show them a nice shoe, but it's sustainable shoe? But also you have to communicate that. You cannot just put in the store. You have to communicate, because a lot of people don't know what is a sustainable design. So you have to communicate in Instagram, in your website. I think that a lot of people have to teach the customers how to buy a sustainable shoe. So it's a little bit like that. It's longer, but I try to explain you the best way, short.
Excellent. And I think you did amazing. It sounds that it's definitely complicated, but the important thing is that it's possible. So thank you for sharing that information. And I hope everybody can find some importance in this, as like I did. And the most important is that it is possible. It could be complicated, but it is possible. I'm going to move on with Yas Gonzalez, who was also part of our FDLA show last week during New York Fashion Week, with a beautiful collection and a beautiful finale with the butterflies. Yas, I have a question for you. For those up-and-coming fashion designers that are out there starting their careers in fashion, could you give them a message on how to become a sustainable fashion designer?
First of all, thank you for having me at the show. I had an amazing time with all of you here as well. Basically, I would say to new up-and-coming designers to take into consideration, like I said before, from step one, from the moment you're illustrating a garment, take into consideration thinking about where that garment is going, who that garment is being designed for, what materials are you using. You know, I'm seeing here, and I'm sorry, I think the questions are left for the end, but it is a good point. I think someone, Nordbo, asked a question, and it has to do with what you're saying about polyester. Choosing material, he's asking me, why am I saying that polyester is one of the most sustainable materials? And basically, it skips the energy-intensive oil extraction process, and it reduces emission, as well as polyester uses 35% less water. So these things, for new up-and-coming designers, it's good for them to know and for them to study these things and know what they're working with, and in order to choose their fabrics well, in order to choose their garments well, and taking into consideration who they're working for, what they're doing, what they're designing. Maybe they can start designing garments that have maybe I don't know, 3 ways of wearing it, things like that. You know, that's the main thing for up and coming designers, to have consideration. Just a little bit makes a big change.
Excellent, excellent, amazing. So I have 2 last questions for all of you guys. And I think these are the most important questions of the topic today. I'm going to start with you, Carla. How do you take on, how do you take on the issue of diversity size in Latin America?
Excuse me, Albania, I cannot not hear you good. Can you please repeat me?
Sure. The question is for all 3. The question is for all 3 of you guys. I'm going to start with you. And the question is as follows.
Okay.
How do you take on the issue of diversity / size in Latin America?
So for me, I mean, I'm not making coats, I'm making shoes. And also can be a little bit difficult and complicated, the plus size. For example, the shaft of the shoes, of the boots can be a little bit complicated because it's difficult that a shoe can try for every plus size. So we always trying to make a different kind of prototypes to test our boots because a shoe, I mean, shoe is easier, but when you are making boots, it's a little bit complicated because it cannot fit for everyone. The shaft, I mean, I don't know if someone knows what is the shaft, because it's a technical word, is something like this, is this one. This one is the shaft of the boot. So it can be a little bit complicated, but it's not impossible. We are making scales for everyone, and we want to make the difference to the other brands. And we want that everyone comes to Dante and buy a shoes that can fit, that can make comfortable. It doesn't matter if it's a plus size.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to Jose Forteza. Same question for you, Jose. How do you take on the issue of diversity / size in Latin America from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, in our case, again, is given space especially in the models and in all the graphics and everything, to different sizes and different physical and ethnic types. I'm very proud to say that we have been doing that for a long time, even before it was in trend. We didn't do it because it was in trend, but we did it because we are part of a very multicultural region in the world. And for example, we have had in our covers women of different sizes and racial and ethnical origins. We also include that in our contents. And we definitely applaud the designers and the brands that are taking this into consideration more and more. For example, I don't know, what can I tell you? Carla was saying that, for example, when you're going to design a shoe, it's not as dramatically complicated as it would be for the sizes in clothing. And she's right. But when I think of design, for example, why, I mean, it is important that shoe designers got to be inclusive when they think, for example, of those beautiful high heels pieces that are going to be wear for ladies of over 45 years old or plus size ladies that I guess it should hurt to walk in those high heels. But they have I don't know, they have the right to wear them comfortably and securely. And I think that probably that's a challenge for shoe designers. And the same goes for men. If we want to have a different, I don't know, I'm not a specialist in shoemaking, but I'm passionate to wear them. And it's not as comfortable as it was for me when I was in my 20s to wear a certain kind of design as it is now. That I'm 60 years old. So that's a challenge, and that's something that all the designers are taking good care of right now, because the demand is increasingly promising for all kinds of sizes and physical types, and as I was mentioning, ethnical origins and everything. And we, as communicators, as editors and journalists, we've been doing that with a simple step that is not simple at all, of being inclusive and respectful of the big and enormous and rich spectrum of beauty in the world, in our streets and in our readers.
Excellent. Now the same question goes to you, Yas. If you're ready, I'm going to repeat the question. How do you take on the issue of diversity/size in Latin America?
First, I wouldn't call it so much of an issue. I would call it so much of a reality, because us as human beings, we have different sizes. We're multicultural, especially in Latin America. We have different races. We have people that are physically impaired. And to me, as a fashion designer, I dress the human being. I dress whomever comes to me, I have to dress, whether they're fat, skinny, tall, or short. So I don't see it as an issue, honestly. But referring to your question, since I began as a fashion designer, I am not a skinny person myself. As much as I try, I am not. And it's not changing anytime soon. So I started being my own muse as to why isn't there out there more clothing for women with a thicker figure. You know, we want to wear beautiful dresses. So we want to wear, comfortable stuff. Like Jose was saying, there are shoes that I cannot stand anymore. And after I gave birth, I gained a significant amount of weight. And I cannot handle the shoes that I used to handle before I was pregnant, that I was a little bit less overweight, if you will. So to me, it's a very conscious situation to have and to design for all types of people, especially for the Latin Americans, that we all know that we all have different body types. As Latin women are very, I would say 75 to 80% of us are thicker than the regular, American model, or what you see advertised out there, as Jose was saying. I'm pretty sure you go through hell having to deal with that. Now we've gotten a little better with the fact of the race. For example, we have different types of, there's not only nude, now there's different stages of nude, because nude to me could be white or yellow, or, and to other people could be a little darker or lighter. So I think it's quite unfair to call nude one color, or, wear something nude under that. If you see a Black person, you cannot, if you're dressing a Black person, you cannot say wear something nude, because that wouldn't be nude for that person. As well as if you're dressing an extremely white person, it's vice versa. So there's a lot of complication in that. And I'm very grateful that nowadays is being taken into consideration. Bigger brands are taking that into consideration, different sizes, different cultures, and different skin types.
Excellent. So I'm going to read off the last question before we move to I know Jason has some questions in our Q&A section here, but I have one last question, and then you guys can take turns and see who wants to answer first. And it goes as follows. To what extent will it affect you all as designers and media if the theme of vintage, reuse, and upcycling becomes a trend?
Yep, I'm going to start because it's going to be probably easier for me to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as editor, it's not going to affect me at all. On the contrary, it enriches the possibilities of creating beautiful editorials. The vintage idea and the reuse and everything, because one simple thing, to me, it make people more creative with their own little world, in fashion, and it also makes even more beautiful the possibilities of showing amazing pieces that have been produced in the past. So the vintage and the upcycling and the reuse for us is a plus as communicators. It is very interesting to me, even to me, to hear what the designers have to say about that, because it definitely is going to have an impact in their work.
Yes, I agree with you. So let's hear from Carla. Carla, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
Okay, the question is, to what extent will it affect you as a designer if the theme of vintage, reuse, and upcycling becomes a trend?
For me, is amazing. It's like right now I think that it's a trend, kind of a trend. So for me, it's beautiful. You can use a lot of stuff that, I mean, vintage for me is more it's more a new trend, kind of, because a lot of people start loving that. They are going to.
I think we're losing Carla. Let's wait until she can reconnect. Carla, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I don't know what happened. I think I'm already here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I was telling you that for me it's beautiful that you can use a vintage pieces. Also, you can also improve that in the shoe process. I mean, maybe it's not vintage, but you can also use like leather that was making in the past and you have there in the warehouse and nobody's using. Also, you can use that. It's kind of vintage. You can make a really good look of shoe, a vintage shoe. So for me, it's beautiful. It's a nice process. It's not bad to use more and more and more and more. So for us, it's also we are offering that for our customers sometimes. For example, if they have a boot or a shoe since the first collection that we made, we are offering them to change the outsole, for example, of the heel, and then can use the same. It can be like vintage, like fashion vintage, or I don't know. So we try to offer that to our customer, and for me, it's beautiful. The vintage pieces for me are amazing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Carla. But last but not least, Yas, you can answer that question real quick for us so we can move on into our Q&A from the chat. Would you like me to repeat the question or you're good?
I got it.
Okay.
I love vintage. To me, the vintage pieces are such an amazing piece of art, I would call them. And to me, they're like a jewel. They're very respected. They have a history, they have memories, they have emotions. So vintage, if it comes to a trend, I'm not an advocate of trends, although I am aware I should be. And everyone always pulls my ear on that. But I kind of always go the other route. The trends is what I feel. My inspiration is my trends, although I know I have to respect trends most of the time, which I do. I listen to advice. But if vintage does become a trend, that would be the one and only trend I would go after fully. But to me, vintage is always a trend because it's vintage is equals treasure, is equals memories. And I respect vintage very much. I do.
I agree with you because I'm a fan of vintage too. So it is a trend for me since I can remember. So let's, keep going with the vintage. I love that. So I think we have a few questions on our Q&A section on the chat. I'm going to pass it along to Jason Sheen so he can, I know we only have a few minutes left, but Jason, if you can go over those, that would be great.
Absolutely. Okay, our first question is from Pineapple GQ. Great name, by the way, love it. What is the best way to fund a brand to be sustainable for small to medium sized lines? And whoever wants to take that, please feel free.
Can you repeat? I'm sorry.
What is the best way to fund a brand to have a sustainable business model for small to medium sized lines?
I would say from my perspective, funding wise, you can fund, like I said before, you can fund, if you have the funds to create X, Y brands, you can have the funds to create a sustainable brand. Like I said before, we do not have to go 100% sustainable, because I don't think we're in the United States, we're ready, or in the world, we're ready to go 100% sustainable. But if we do little things here and there to make it better until we're all ready in the world to go 100% sustainable, then that's gonna make a difference. I mean, that's my point of view. I don't know if you guys have another answer for this question.
I think that's
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think because we have limited time now, I think it should be one answer per question. I think that should be enough. And then if anyone needs further information or has more questions, they can write to us directly. We posted our emails and Instagram accounts on the chat.
And also, we will be in and out of the show offices as well. We're just kind of facilitating our virtual show floor. So if anybody wants to go in there and reconnect with any speakers or attendees or anything like that, that's another place you can do that. And to your point, Yas, yeah, I mean, sustainability is such a broad spectrum term as far as different ways to be sustainable, from supply chain practices to materials to, you know, different manufacturing processes. And, you know, depending on what aligns with your business model, there's different ways, as Yas was saying, to start being sustainable. You don't have to have a fully vertical sustainable business model to begin with. It's those small steps along the way. So just look at those different ways to do it is probably a good place to start, and find the most cost-effective model for your brand or your lines. Okay, next we have, what do you suggest to create more engagement with clients?
I'm going to get that one because it's communication. I think the answer is short and fast. To create more engagement, you need, number one, transparency, number two, honesty, number three, attractive graphics and imagery. That's exactly, I mean, that has been the keys to communicate since the whole history of communication started. It's just to adapt them to these current days, and stressing in transparency and honesty, which is the differentiating factor in the days we are living now. Every time you want to communicate in fashion, if you want to communicate a trend or I don't know, an aesthetic profile of a designer, you have to incorporate a story behind it, the story behind it. You have to infuse it with a whole narrative that is going to be appealing to the consumer, which is also our audience as communicators. And that's what I suggest all the time to I don't know, to brand heads or to designers when they ask me this question. Be transparent, try to infuse your DNA to the communication plan you have, and be always honest and follow your narrative. The same that started, and now I'm going to use an example with Yas. The collection I saw in FDLA, I mean, there is a whole story behind it, of the letters to her mom, or of the things she and her mom communicated through their writings. She transformed that, she put that in prints, in beautiful prints, and infused that with a whole spirit of positivity and hope that had the climax when she filled the room with butterflies. That story is going to sell that collection, even if it is bad, which is not. It's great, but that kind of honesty, transparency, and a plausible and real narrative behind a collection is when it's going to sell. And that's exactly the example I would love to use right now to answer to Osvaldo, who is the one who's asking the question. Hopefully is going to do good for all of you.
Thank you.
Very, very thorough answer. Thank you, Jose. Next question, we'll go through this one rapidly. What is the forecast of revenue for the supply chain for the next 5 years globally? I know that's a broad question, but I think the question is focusing on in terms of how are we looking at profits in the supply chain for the fashion industry in general compared to previous years, especially with everything going on in the world. Anybody wants to tackle that one?
I don't think anybody wants to take that question.
Yeah, well, I know. You know what? I would comment that is that question should be the subject for a whole 2 hours conference. It's so complicated. I mean, if I would like to make a comment, and I think that the question is directed to how the idea or the philosophy of sustainability is going to affect the supply chain. Of course, it's going to affect it, but we'll have to be talking about this for a long time, because what apparently is a minus in terms of revenue for the supply chain could, in the long term, not be like that. Because profit is also sustainable and is sustained and it fluctuates less, is going to be a plus thing for the factors, for the elements in the supply chain. So that's the only comment I would do now. I think that's something that is, I mean, this for a whole thesis. We should write about that, like I don't know, an 11 pages answer.
Yeah, sustainability is an evolving topic as technologies change, as you know, the way we communicate supply chain and all that changes. So, you know, I think it's really the question is, how is it going to affect your bottom line? The truth about sustainability is not just about spending more money on these other things. It's about the long-term goal. How is your company going to be around in 5, 10, 15 years? And the answer to that question, if it's going to be yes, is you have to start adopting sustainable business models. It's not just about labor. It's not just about manufacturing. All right, someone's drag racing. Who is it? Okay, next we have from one of our Facebook questions. Copenhagen Fashion Week will be introducing sustainability requirements for the 2023 show. Do you think this is something that should be adopted globally across every fashion week?
I guess it's gonna be me again. Okay. First of all, I know about this Copenhagen thing. I applaud it. I think it's Copenhagen Fashion Week is very peculiar because they, I mean, it's placed in a part of the world that has been happily sustainable for a long time now, and I think they are mature. They are ready to do this kind of things. I would say that the answer to that, and what all fashion weeks should do, is to in a way, I don't know, incentivize designers that are gonna be in their fashion weeks to develop and to show the sustainable side of the collections they're going to present. What I wouldn't do is to put limits to the ones that are not totally in the philosophy of sustainability, and to cut their chances of being part of the fashion week, because we would be cutting the possibility of make them part of the club. Every time you eliminate the access of one person because he or she still is not in what we think is the correct way, we are ostracizing and we are limiting our possibilities of bringing them into the right path. I would make a comparison. A long time, like 5 years ago, I was in a panel in Malaysia. And as I was born in Cuba, and in Malaysia, there were like a couple of interesting people in the audience that wanted to make very tricky questions. They asked me why Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba were not usually included in Vogue and were not usually invited to the big fashion weeks around the world. And the answer was that Vogue and the fashion weeks around the world are opened to everyone. Because even if we are not very happy with the policies in one specific country and with the governments in one specific country, if we close the door to the designers of that country, what we are doing is punishing the creative minds for the fault of a group that is in place in the government. That is exactly what I would apply to this idea of excluding of every fashion week the designers or brands that are not in the position we would like them to be in terms of sustainability. I think we should be open. I applaud the initiative of Copenhagen. I would love to see in fashion weeks and in magazines ways to incentivize the people that are developing a good working process in terms of sustainability, but I would never shut the door to the ones who are not doing it. We, on the contrary, we would open the door for them to learn the positive thing and the plus side of being part of what should be the majority and the important trend of sustainability in the world.
Thank you. Sorry, I was muted there. Last question was from another Facebook chat. Looks like a supplier from Jordan specializing in clothing and production supplies wants to know how they can get involved with the show or share with us. I would go into the virtual dashboard or the virtual landing page, which is taking the place of our show floor. I just posted a link here if you're not already logged in. So this is essentially where you can access the main show office, which is a great place for matchmaking. It's got a live hangout for networking, contacting suppliers, meeting other attendees, or also connecting with the ATS staff. So I'd highly encourage everybody to go in there. And that's going to be the end for this panel. So thank you so much to everybody, all of our panelists from all across Latin America here in the States.
Thank you so much.
I would like to remind everybody that we are going to have our next session at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Anna Livermore from Vmora, top 10 mistakes to avoid as a new designer. Again, in the meantime, I encourage everybody to go to the dashboard link in the chat. Over 100 exhibitors, manufacturers at the show, featuring our China suppliers in room 3, our India suppliers in room 2, and also suppliers from the United States, Canada, Portugal, Mongolia, Bangladesh, and Brazil in room number 1. So I highly encourage everybody to go there. And that will be it for the rest of us here on this panel. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.